we'll be issuing some resolutions and some celebrations to recognize some really important landmark things that are going on in our community. At this particular board meeting, we're actually celebrating our Building Service Workers Appreciation Day, our National Principals Month, and America's Safe Schools Week. So there's a lot to celebrate and a lot to be really proud of, and we're so honored to have so many guests here today. And to kick things off, to lead our presentation today is the Vice President of the Board of Education, Mrs. Grace Rivera-Oven.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor, and distinguished guests. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and for being here. Excuse me. So for me, this is a very heartwarming proclamation, because when I actually moved to this county, oh, hello, Mr. McCarthy. When I actually moved to this county and I started school, the building service person was actually one of my dear friends and was such an important person to me. He was the friendliest and nicest. He actually taught me different English, words. Always, was very welcoming and helped me with pronunciation. And he was a genuine friend. And I'm sure he's in a better place today. And this was at Washington Grove Elementary many years ago. So I asked specifically that I wanted to present this award to the amazing people that take care of our buildings, but they don't take care of a building. They take care of the children inside the building, and you know you do that. And I've seen a lot of you. I have met you in person, and every time I go, I always like to shake your hand, and I always like to say, gracias, thank you for doing what you do every day. You are there during the cold, during the hot, when we're closed. You're there in the evenings. You're there when people are gone. So anyway, with that, and now I have to read what they wrote for me. But I just I just wanted to say things from del corazón, pues. So today we pause to celebrate the true unseen heroes of our district, our building service workers. They are the first to arrive and the last to leave, ensuring our buildings are safe, clean, and welcoming for every student, staff member, and community members every single day. So let's welcome these remarkable 11 individuals. I'm going to call your name, and if you then, are they coming up right here? Okay. If you can just come up here and line up. So I'm going to be calling you by name. So I'm going to say Tiara Boynes from Harmony Hills Elementary School, also wearing a wonderful Boston Celtics. Shelton Neal from Walter Johnson High School. Chris Lazor from Wilson Wims. It's so nice to see Chris. Every time I go, I always say to him, what an impeccable building his is. And he's also the mascot, by the way. So, Jorge Martinez from Magruder High School. Jordan Mateo, Grace Seneca Creek Elementary School. Ana Medrano, Anita, from Cashel Elementary School. Jackie Mejia from Roberto Clemente Middle School. Idalia Romero from Clarksburg Elementary School. Stephen Ricketts from Halliwells Middle School. Tim Taylor from Poolsville Elementary School. And finally, and not least, James Tyler from Seneca Valley High School. See here? Mr. Hernandez, would you like to maybe be in for him and receive his if he's not here? Because we have our wonderful principal from Seneca Valley, so I'm going to have him fill in. So another applause for Mr. The work that they do goes far beyond simple maintenance. It's a foundation for success. A well-maintained school is about health, safety, and dignity, creating the essential environment where learning can thrive by consistently handling everything, and I mean everything, from emergency cleanups to major summer projects to bursting pipes. Our building service workers demonstrate incredible professionalism and quiet leadership. Their commitment reduces illnesses, prevents accidents, and they contribute directly to the students' well-being. Their impact is everywhere. To our entire building service workers team who are here and also who are not here today, we just want to say thank you for your unwavering care and your essential daily commitment. You are truly the backbone of our operations, are deeply critical to our mission in our county. I encourage every principal, every teacher, every student, and community member to share a story or offer personalized thanks today, because every custodian is truly making a difference. We are profoundly grateful for your service. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Ms. Rivera Oven, I need my reading glasses back, please. Grace.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. We're such a good colleagues, you know.
Team effort here. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carla Silvestre, and it is my privilege today to recognize National Principals Appreciation Month. You know, everybody in this school system, every single staff member is critical. Those of you that were here with us during the pandemic and we had staffing shortages, you know that every single position is essential and we cannot run the school system without you. So I want to start out by saying that. And our principals are also key players in the success of our school system. Leadership really matters. To have a good leader at your school, teachers are motivated, parents are engaged, children are learning. So it is my privilege to talk about this topic here today. And we are joined by 3 exceptional principals who exemplify these values. As I call your name, please join me at the podium here. Ricardo Hernandez from Seneca Valley High School. Mr. Hernandez facilitated a Know Your Rights community forum with parents, students, MCPS staff, and community partners to inform, educate, and guide student thinking and action regarding immigration rights so students can continue to attend school while learning in a safe environment. Mr. Hernandez is consistently available and visible to students throughout the day as he engages students during class changes, lunch, and arrival dismissal. The school graduation rate has increased from 85.71 to 88.33 during his first year as principal. Let's give him a round of applause. Young M. Kim, Herbert Hoover Middle School. No, right here, okay. All right, Dr. Kim is the epitome of a gracious leader and a hostess extraordinaire, as she hosted teachers from Taiwan this year. Under her strategic leadership, Hoover Middle School implemented targeted instructional strategies to improve student outcomes on the Maryland Integrated Science Assessment. 72.9% of Hoover students achieved proficiency on the science MISA, placing the school among the top performing middle schools in the region. Her ability to foster collaboration, share best practices, and model excellence in teaching and learning reflects her deep commitment to continuous growth and global partnership. Let's give her a round of applause. Probably working hard at Hoover right now.
I'm going to accept that.
Okay.
Directors here.
Dr. Dorothea Fuller, Galway Elementary School. Under Dr. Fuller's leadership, Galway Elementary has made significant strides in raising academic outcomes. Over the last several years, student proficiency in reading has increased, exceeding the Maryland state average. In mathematics, the school's proficiency rate has also exceeded the state average. These improvements are supported by strong engagement. Dr. Fuller's strategic emphasis on data-driven instruction, transparent tracking systems, and instructional coherence has helped galvanize teaching teams and strengthen the school-home partnership, setting Galway on a clear upward trajectory in service of equity and excellence. Round of applause, please. Our principals are the visionaries and chief executive officers of their campuses, and they are the people who bring MCPS's core values to life every single day. So on behalf of the Board of Education, we want to thank you so much for your leadership and service to our students. So just because we recognize these three doesn't mean we don't want to recognize all the principals in the audience. So if you're a principal in the audience, please come up and take a picture with us. Don't be shy. Come on.
All right, Rashonda, Shawan, Linda, come on up. Yes.
Let's get it tight. Get it tight.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
That same smile right here. Same smile. Don't change it.
Don't look at Ryan.
Thank you.
That was good. Good afternoon. We are approaching the end of the first quarter. So here is your assessment, okay? True or false statement, okay? Education is a team sport?
True.
True? Okay. In our schools, actually, teaching, learning is the second highest priority.
True.
True or false?
True.
True? Okay, now the open question. What is the first priority?
Safety.
Thank you. You all passed with flying colors. All right, great. Good afternoon. I'm Julie Yang. I'm the president of the Board of Education. Really, truly, education is a team sport. Every one of you is on this team. Every single one of you. And today, we are very honored to invite a group that's outside of MCPS. We're breaking down the silos, you see here, into our boardroom so that we can express our deep appreciation for your partnership, for your effort to help us to build functional, healthy, successful citizens in American society. So when I call you, please come up to the front. We have from Rockville City Police Department, Chief of Police Jason West, and Deputy Chief Barry Dufek. Welcome. We have our County State Attorney, our longtime friend, John McCarthy. We also have from our county's park police, which I learned something new today. Actually, our park police have high school designations that they work with our high school clusters. All right. So Assistant Chief Lakeisha Robinson, Assistant Chief Lieberman, and Lieutenant Francis Wolf. Welcome. We have from our county's sheriff office, Sheriff Maxwell Wee, and Assistant Sheriff Kina Jones. From our county police department, we have our Chief, Mark Yamada, Captain Mike Pratt, Assistant Chief Dave Babane, Assistant Chief Nick Augustine, Assistant Chief Darren Frank, okay, I'm not saying this right, Frank, Assistant Chief Willie Parker Long. Okay. From our city, we also have city police from Tacoma Park Police Department, Deputy Chief of Police Shibu Philippos. Now, we of course cannot forget one of our most diverse city, the city of Gaithersburg Police, our Lieutenant Willie Delgado. All right. When this celebration was on the list, I signed up. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do this because what you do is so important. Did I already say that? It's so important. So safety is shared responsibility. It takes all of us, educators, parents, community members, and local partners, working together to build trust and awareness through teamwork, communication, proactive support. We can prevent problems before they start and strengthen the sense of belonging in every school. So let's give them another happy round of applause. Thank you, thank you. Take a picture together. Maybe we don't need to in one line. Can we? You are so. Can we do 2 or 3 lines? I'm thinking our dad. It's impossible for our dad.
Come on, John.
Come on.
Come on, John, get in the front. We put you right in front.
Tall people in the back, right? Yes, there we go. All right. We're good. All right.
1, 2, 3. Now I'll get one more. Good.
1, 2. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you been? I'm good.
Yeah, it is. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to October 30th, 2025 Board of Education Business Meeting. It's great to see MCPS families, staff, and I want to also welcome the community members who are joining us online. Now, before we start the meeting, I want to ask board members to introduce themselves to establish a quorum.
Good afternoon. I love the excitement tonight. Aniva Malou, student member of the board.
Good afternoon. Natalie Zimmerman, representing District 2.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. Carla Silvestre, school board member at large.
Good afternoon. Brenda Wolfs, District 5.
Good afternoon. Rita Montoya, board member at large.
Good afternoon. Laura Stewart from District 4.
Good afternoon. I'm Julie Yang, District 3. Is there a motion to approve the revised agenda?
Motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. That's unanimous with those present. Ms. Rivera-Oven will be joining us shortly online. I'm very excited about the next item, which is 4.2. It's our color guard presentation. Today's a little bit special. Later today, we are going to going to vote on a resolution to honor Veterans Day. So we use this meeting, have invited the members of Seneca Valley High School Navy Junior ROTC Color Guards as we commemorate Veterans Day. So please, let's welcome Cadet Brian Springer and Cadet Maya Anderson, Cadet Emilio Basario, and Cadet Irma Major Montes, Cadet Alma Santiago. The cadets are led by Senior Chief James Hill, U.S. Navy retired. Now, I would like to ask everyone to stand, and cadet may begin with the presentation of the colors.
Colors. Hope. Ready. Do. Up. Right. 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 Up. Colors. Hope. Present. Colors. Ready. Cut.
Let's recite the Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Color guard. Carry. Colors. Ready. Cut. Carry. Colors. Ready. 2. Up. Right. Right. Forward. March. Up. Right. 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 Up. Up. Right. 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 Up. Up. Right. Right. Color. Hope.
I want to thank them. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, Seneca Valley. Okay, please be seated. Item 5.1, Dr. Taylor, is a recommended appointment. I understand we have 4 appointments today.
Yes, Madam President, I'm pleased to present the following candidates for administrative positions in MCPS. And when I call your name, I'd ask you to stand while I say some really nice things about you, and then the Board of Education will vote on you one at a time, and we'll all get to a chance to congratulate you. The first person up for consideration is Mr. Robbie S. Badsnibner for the position of Supervisor in the Design and Construction Team in the Department of Facilities Management in the Division of District Operations. Joining him today is his wife, Julie. Robbie has been with MCPS for 18 years as a construction supervisor and most recently as a project manager in the Division of Design and Construction. And given the fact that we're talking about the capital improvement program this month, he's a busy guy. He looks forward to continuing his work in the Department of Facilities Management and to build on the strong foundation of excellence in school design and construction that supports our students and staff.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor of the appointment, please raise your hand. That's unanimous with those present. Congratulations.
Next for consideration is a familiar face on our capital improvements team, is Miss Julie Morris for the position of Supervisor of Planning and Real Estate for our Planning and Real Estate team in the Division of Facilities Management and Operations. Mrs. Morris has been employed with MCPS for 16 years as a planner, facility manager, and most recently as the Director of the Division of Design and Construction. Mrs. Morris looks forward to continuing to lead planning and real estate teams in her new role. Shout outs to her children, Zach and Zoe, who will be watching online after school lets out.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second the motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. That's unanimous with those present. Congratulations, Ms. Morris.
Including Ms. Rivera Oven, who's
Ms.
online.
Elrod. It says that's unanimous.
All right, very excited to welcome Miss Gloria Yee for the position of Assistant General Counsel in the Division of Legal Services. Ms. Yee brings to Montgomery County Public Schools more than 15 years of public interest law. She is eager to bring her wide range of skills and experience and commitment to public service in support of MCPS and its mission to unleash the potential of all students. Welcome, Ms. Yee.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. That's unanimous. Congratulations, Ms. Yee.
And our last person for consideration today is for a principalship. And it's always exciting when we can recognize principals, especially during Principal Appreciation Month. And I would like to ask Dr. Belinda M. Penn to stand for the position of Principal of the John L. Gildner Regional Institute for Children and Adolescents. Joining her today is Ms. Rashonda Piles, Dr. Shawan Robinson, and Tyshawn Fells. Dr. Penn has been employed with Montgomery County Public Schools for 8 years as a resource counselor, assistant principal, and most recently as the principal intern at Rockville High School. She looks forward to joining the RICA Royals and bringing her extensive expertise and commitment to student growth and well-being. Shout outs to her mother, Mrs. Mary Penn, and her father, Mr. Earl Penn, and her family and friends who are watching online from Virginia, Georgia, New York, and overseas. Welcome.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. That's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you, Madam President. This concludes administrative appointment recommendations for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Now, item number 6 is association comment. This year, Board of Education has added association comment so that we can keep 20 slots for our general public. We value hearing from the community. We thank you for providing us with your feedback. So today, I will ask, David Stein from MCEA is here. Mr. Stein, please come forward. Let's give it 1 minute for transition, right? Nice try. Let's just give it 15 more seconds. All right, Mr. Stein, you may proceed.
Good evening, Dr. Taylor, President Yang, members of the board. It's hard to imagine that we are only a few months into a new school year with so much going on. Multiple and changing boundary studies, a CIP proposal, potential changes to secondary programs, just to name a few. And regardless how one may feel about any of those items, you'd be hard-pressed to argue that not a lot is going on right now. But today I'm asking you to add something else to your ballooning to-do list, and that's to be radically transparent. Transparency is the tonic that we need to prevent government from becoming toxic. Radical transparency means ensuring that everyone, educators, parents, students, community members, not only knows what you're doing, but can authentically participate in and inform your work. When we subsume decision-making in Byzantine bureaucratic processes, we should not be surprised when our ambitions get stymied and when little public support is generated. How could it? The public doesn't know. My members don't know. The average person doesn't know. Now, some may think that's okay. The public can be messy and loud troublemakers. I know because that's regularly said about me and my MCA members. But when you're not clear, when you make decisions without authentic input and collaboration, you not only tarnish, but you corrode trust in our school system and in government writ large. So let me end my transparency tirade by quoting two transparency radicals. First is Justice Louis Brandeis. You can't go on a rant about transparency without citing Brandeis. He said, if the broad light of day could be let in upon men's actions, it would purify them as the sun disinfects. And the second is Leslie Knope. Yes, that Leslie Knope from Parks and Recreation. Knope said, when talking about public meetings, what I hear when people are yelling at me is people caring loudly at me. And all of us in this room and outside of it care deeply about our kids, about MCPS. And your job is to help us see the light of your decisions. And yes, get at least some of them to yell at you. And you can count on me and MCA members to do our part. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stein. Item number 7 is public comment. And while it's the board encourages public input, this is a standard verbiage I have to read. If it's first time, that's fine. If it's the 10th time for you, please bear with it. While the board encourages public input on policy, program, and practices, and will consider the comment received, it is not the board's practice during its public comment to respond to questions, provide comments, or take action on the issues raised. This is a public meeting, and the board expects the conduct of all speakers and members of the audience to be within the bounds of proper etiquette. Inappropriate personal remarks, rude retorts, or other such behavior is out of order and will not be tolerated. Those who demonstrate disruptive or disrespectful behavior during public comment may be asked to leave the room. In addition, public comment is not the proper avenue to address specific student or employee matters. Such matters should be directed through the complaint or appeal process. Each speaker has 2 minutes to deliver comments. When your name is called, press the flap button and speak clearly into the microphone. A yellow light at a single beep indicates you have 30 seconds remaining. A red light and repeating beep signal that time has expired. Once you have finished speaking, press the same button to turn off the microphone. For Then following the live testimony, we'll play any video and audio testimonies. So I'm going to call the first 6 speakers to come forward. They are, and if you have papers that you want to share with board members, just put it at the end of the table. All right, first is Lua Dawit, Eloise Good, Edward Wan, Claire Lee, Lorena Wu, Elizabeth King. Lowell, you can start. Press the button. There you go.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Luo Dawit, and I'm a sophomore at Northwood High School. Now, initially, I had anticipated coming before you all to speak on a rather lighthearted topic, that being to bring back the metal people that had stood on Northwood's original campus on University Boulevard, though seemingly overnight this past week, a more pressing issue has emerged. The recent decision to remove several of Northwood's proposed magnet programs included in recent boundary studies, which included musical and theatrical performing arts, and a medical science program, which have now been both relocated to Albert Einstein High School to serve as criteria-based programs. This decision speaks volumes. Intentional or not, the decision to make dance the only criteria-based program at a school like Northwood, which has been historically underrepresented, makes it harder to ignore the broader patterns this begins reflecting. When communities like Northwood's are shaped by decades of redlining systemic inequality, seeing programs that promise to provide equity become stripped away from us only prove that history is repeating itself. These pathways being taken from us are not luxuries. They are opportunities for expression and passion, the passion that has fostered community and tradition in virtually every school in Montgomery County but Northwood. What will all the effort our community has put in working around the numerous burdens put on us by the county be for if we cannot have an equal chance to create that same tradition for the coming years? Even with the success Einstein High School has found in every single aspect of the arts, it still seems to not be enough for the Einstein community. How exactly can a school that is crammed with well over 400 additional students with a building quite literally falling apart sustain an additional 2 more magnet programs? We're told these decisions are to provide a balance and efficiency, but when a school that has been forced to shut down for over 2 decades, like Northwood due to low funding and underpopulation, has been thrown into an active construction site with very limited facilities, and is now losing the magnet programs that would have provided some kind of fairness to our situation, what balance or efficiency is there? If we as a county are serious about creating an equitable school system, then we need to start by not making any more decisions that deepen the divide generations before us have fought to close for too long. Thank you.
Eloise? So not here? Okay, Ella?
Good afternoon, members of the board and Dr. Taylor. My name is Ella Wan, and I'm a freshman at Richard Montgomery High School. I'm here today to speak on the Crown High School boundary study and the need to prioritize renovations for schools that already have students in them. Across the county, students are learning in conditions that are not safe. At Wooten High School, there are reports of rats coming out of the walls. There have been floods at Blake, and as I'm sure we all know, at Quince Orchard High School, the ceiling recently collapsed and the hallways were flooded with dirty water. These examples show how critical it is to address renovations now, because these problems are happening in real schools with real students inside. From my own experience at Neilsville Middle School, I saw firsthand how hard it can be to learn when construction is happening right next door. Some days we couldn't even go outside because there was so much dust in the air. Students with asthma sometimes had to stay home because it was unsafe for them to breathe. And the constant noise of machinery made it nearly impossible to focus in class. Students cannot be expected to learn their best in those conditions. Crown High School can help solve this problem. Just like Woodward is serving Northwood students, Crown could be used as a temporary holding school during major renovations. This would let students continue learning in a safe environment while their schools are being repaired. It will also allow construction crews to work more effectively without worrying about disrupting classes every day. As a student who has lived through these disruptions, I am asking you to think about what it feels like to sit in a classroom where the ceiling might leak, where the walls have pests, or when the sounds of drills drowns out your teacher. No student should have to wonder if their school building is safe. Students deserve schools that support their learning and their health. Renovations must come first, because we cannot look towards the future without first fixing the present. Using Crown as a temporary space is the cleanest way to make that happen quickly and safely. Students cannot wait. Thank you for your time.
Claire, go ahead.
Hello, Dr. Taylor and members of the Board of Education. My name is Claire Lee, a 6th grader at Cabin John Middle School and a proud Stone Mill Elementary graduate. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. 4 months ago, on July 24th, I stood here urging you to keep Stone Mill and Wooten Cluster because I was worried about how the boundary changes might harm our Stone Mill community. Well, I'm back today, and this time, I just want to say a huge thank you. We are so thrilled that the new options keep our Stone Mill Tigers and Wooten Cluster. Last time, I said we weren't just numbers on a map or chess pieces on a board to be moved around. You didn't just move the lines, you listened. You and the team worked hard to find a solution that not only kept Stone Mill and Wooten Cluster, but also didn't split up our neighborhood. It also means the world to us that you cared about our need for stability. Thank you for your leadership and for making things right. We're also super excited about the change to Robert Frost Middle School. It's so much closer to our house than Cabin John. The shorter bus ride means we get home earlier, which gives us more time for homework, hanging out with friends, and just being with our families. It really makes a huge difference for us. Please keep doing what you're doing and keep Stone Mill and Wooten Cluster. I look forward to sharing my thoughts with you again in the future. Thank you for your time.
Lorena?
Good afternoon, distinguished Board of Education members and Superintendent Dr. Taylor. My name is Lorena Wu, and I'm a sophomore at Poolesville High School, part of the Global Ecology Program. I'm here today to express my concern towards the proposed changes to countywide programs. I was fortunate to be accepted into several countywide and regional programs after middle school. While regional programs are undoubtedly great, I chose a countywide one, Global Ecology, because of its unique combination of community, coursework, and real-world learning, and it has truly shaped who I am today. Through field studies, I've learned to connect classroom lessons to the environment around us. My teachers go above and beyond to make learning engaging and meaningful. And my peers, who come from all across the county, have created a diverse, supportive community that's helped me grow both academically and personally. This option should still exist for my 6th grade sister, who, after seeing my experience, dreams of joining the Global Ecology Program of today. But the proposed regionalization plan would take that opportunity away from her and her peers. Instead, a modified version of the global program would only be available to those in the Region 6 zip code. While the plan aims to promote equity, it raises serious concerns. 1, funding. Expanding to 25+ new programs without clear resources risks lowering quality across the board. 2, staffing. Specialized courses need resources and highly trained teachers. Replicating that 6 times over is challenging. And 3, equity. Instead of expanding opportunity, this plan could create regional disparities where a student's education depends on their zip code. If the currently proposed changes are voted for, don't jump in head first. Please ensure the implementation of surveys and piloting to properly reflect the desires and needs of our community. Equity isn't achieved by spreading programs thinner. It's achieved by strengthening foundational education, especially in middle schools, and ensuring that existing programs like Global Ecology can thrive. On behalf of Global, I invite you to join one of our field studies to see firsthand the impact and value of this program. Please consider the voices of the Global Ecology community as you make your decisions. Thank you for your time and for supporting meaningful, equitable education in Montgomery County.
Thank you. Ms. King.
Show me a high school that gained almost 1,000 students in 16 years, and I'll show you Walter Johnson. Growth in the WJ area, soon to be served by WJ and Woodward High Schools. Thank you for keeping your word on that. That growth continues. What are its sources, and how will they impact the 2 high school area and Woodward boundary options? The area had students produced by 7 master and sector plans. That's a lot more than the students in the 6-year forecast used to create the Woodward boundary options. Why? The plans generate students, which the county needs to count, through 2048. Jason Sartori of the Planning Department established a total build-out enrollment for the area. This shows that there would be 700 plus more high school students in the 2 high school area than there are in the forecast. Even if the plans just build out to 65%, that's 500 more high school students. True, the economy may delay the development, but not for long. The CIPs say that WJ gets a significantly larger amount of its growth from existing housing than development. If so, an area with 500 high school students from development could receive 600 high school students from existing housing. Total, 1,100 more students. The Woodward boundary study must give the 2 high schools major room to grow. But option D allows for far less growth in the 2 high school area than options A, B, and C. Among the options, I support option B, or option A, modified to include all Garrett Park in Woodward. Elementary schools need room to grow too. For their boundary study, ensure complete enrollment projections with growth from entire master and sector plans and a high build-out rate for developments near Rockville Pike. And above all, place all current WJ neighborhoods in Walter Johnson or Woodward. Thank you.
Please return to your seat. I'm calling the next 6th speaker to come forward. I just want to double check. Is Eloise good here? Okay. Nicole Forey, Cassidy Mullen, Laura Miles, Nicole Hask, Julie Brandt, Stephen Jescourt, and I can go one more. Meredith Goodrich. Oh, so maybe next round. Thank you. So is Eloise here? Is that, no? Okay, so I call too many people? Okay, Nicole first. Ms. Forey, please begin.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm here to represent the Town of Garrett Park Citizen Association. In that capacity, I'd like to bring to the board's attention an important issue related to the Woodward boundary study. That is the division of the Garrett Park community. In the current boundary study options, the Garrett Park community, which includes the Town of Garrett Park Estates, and White Flint Park, is split in 2 ways. In one option, the independent incorporated historic Town of Garrett Park is split in half at Strathmore Avenue. In 2 of the remaining options, the Town of Garrett Park is divided from the remainder of our Garrett Park community. Dividing the Town of Garrett Park in half would fracture our small town and negatively impact our children. In Garrett Park, south of Strathmore Avenue, there are only 38 children between the ages of 0 and 16. If enacted, this division would result in 1 to 5 children, depending on the year, from incorporated Garrett Park entering a different high school than their peers in town, as well as the rest of our Garrett Park community. As evidenced by the signed letter in your attached document, families living on the south side of Garrett Park find this to be a grave issue. The second split between the Town of Garrett Park and Garrett Park Estates White Flint Park would also result in a very small number of children being separated from their community peer group. The whole town of Garrett Park averages 10 children per year entering high school. We're committed to ensuring that none of our town's children are isolated from their peers in our community. This type of division would negatively impact the historical and carefully constructed social fabric of our community, and we'd like to let our peers be together. We request that the board select option B, which keeps our Garrett Park community together, or amend the borders of option A to include the residents of the Town of Garrett Park south of Strathmore Avenue, so that our community can matriculate together to Walter Johnson or Woodward High School. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Cassidy Mullen.
Thank you and good afternoon. My name is Cassidy Mullen and I come here as a member of the Garrett Park Estates neighborhood and as an MCPS parent. I'm going to speak about the proposed options for the boundary study. Garrett Park Estates, as has been mentioned in the previous testimony, is a part of the Garrett Park Estates, White Flint Park, Town of Garrett Park community. These areas have different names and may seem like different places when just viewed from a high level on a map, but they need to be seen as one distinct community. This community has, bonds that tie together children and families, and whether it's dozens of community events per year, summer swim teams, trick-or-treating, meal trains, people have grown up together in this community as one group. Any boundary changes that split this community are going to have a major detrimental effect on the community, its bonds and well-being. For instance, children and families in this neighborhood will know that their friends and families that they see every day will eventually be split apart. In an area where virtue can be, civic virtue, can be rare, I know I'm extraordinarily lucky that I'm able to live in a place as close-knit as this, and I'm here to urge the board to preserve those connections. So fortunately, there is a single option, option B, that keeps our community together. We want to say thank you again to the MCPS staff for taking our community into account in this option and for the tireless work that they have done on the boundary study to date. Therefore, I urge support for option B or modified option A that also includes the town of Garrett Park that is south of Strathmore Avenue. These are what we believe will keep our bonds in place, and thank you.
Thank you. Laura Miles.
Good afternoon, members of the board and Dr. Taylor. My name is Laura Miles. I am a parent of a DeFeef elementary student and a proud DeFeef, Frost, and Wooten graduate myself. I moved back to this community from Virginia so my children could walk the same halls I did, learn from the same community, and grow up surrounded by the values that shaped me. My kindergartner was thrilled to learn that we were moving to the community where I grew up. He is excited to go to the same schools I did. DeFeef isn't just a school, it is a cornerstone of this neighborhood. For 50 years, it has been an integral part of the Wooten cluster. Yet DeFeef is the only school being completely removed from the cluster and all the boundary study options. All other North Potomac elementary schools, including Stone Mill and Travilla, remain in the cluster. Why exclude us, especially when doing so does not satisfy a single one of the board's 4 policy goals? Let's look at the data. The boundary study is meant to balance demographics, geography, stability, and utilization, but moving DeFeef fails on every one. Frost and Wooten are already within the ideal range for capacity, 89% and 93%. Removing DeFeef's approximately 35 students per grade provides no relief. This is disruption without any capacity benefit. In all options, removing DeFeef decreases farms rates and does not improve diversity. It moves both Frost and Wooten in the wrong direction. DeFeef is the only long-standing community in the Wooten cluster being severed from its decades-old feeder pattern, the opposite of stability. Today, our students can walk or bike to our neighbors at Stone Mill and Travilla. We share a community center with them. Under these options, we would have to cross Route 28, even I-270 to see new cluster peers. This breaks friendships, routines, and a sense of safety for our children. So let's be clear, this change advances none of the board's 4 priorities and instead causes real and avoidable harm to a small, tightly connected community. DeFeef families aren't asking for change. We're asking to remain where we are to preserve the relationships, access, and identity that have defined us for half a century. Please don't erase 50 years of connection. Keep DeFeef at Wooten because breaking a community should never be considered a solution. Thank you.
Nicole Haas. You're good.
Thanks. Thank you for taking the time today to listen to the concerns of our tiny but mighty DeFeef community. My name is Nicole Hast. I'm a former MCPS teacher, licensed clinical therapist, and mom of 3 kind kids. I'm also the author of this Don't Move DeFeef community letter that y'all received that has somehow thus far garnered over 550 signatures from 225 households. The number is significant because that's a larger number of households than we actually have in-boundary students at DeFeef Elementary. You've already heard the ways that moving our small community from our current feeder pattern fails to advance any of the goals written into your current policy related to school reassignment, so I'm not going to rehash that. Instead, I want to share with you some of the lessons that I try to instill in my own kids and relate them to our process as we consider opening a brand new school and reorganizing the current articulation process of our existing schools. Lesson 1, money doesn't grow on trees, even if we wish it did. Each year, you all have the difficult job of deciding what to do with the money given to you by the county council. And the truth is that money is never enough to fully support the current 211 schools that we have. By opening Crown as a unique new school necessitating all new staff, we would further be diluting an already less than enough budget that we receive. Lesson 2, help when you can and acknowledge when you can't. Truly, if I believed that moving DUFI from our current cluster would be advantageous to MCPS, I wouldn't be here today. I very much believe in community responsibility and that the benefit of the whole outweighs the benefit of the individual. As the second smallest K-5 school in all of MCPS, we're simply too small to be statistically significant. Moving DUFIF does nothing to help either our current or proposed cluster and only creates disruption to our students. Lesson 3, when you're overwhelmed, take a pause. Boundary studies, a move towards regionalization, and 2 beautiful brand new buildings. It's a lot, especially as we're learning about continued population decline. The sustainability of all these interdependent projects depends on wise choices made thoughtfully. With this in mind, I ask you today to take a pause and give these projects the time they and our kids deserve.
Thank you. Julie Brand.
Good afternoon. My name is Julie Brand. I'm an MCPS parent, teacher, and proud resident of Garrett Park. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We appreciate that the most recent options maintain the commitment that every child in the Walter Johnson cluster will go to WJ or Woodward high schools. However, I'm concerned that some of the options would divide the town of Garrett Park and the Garrett Park Estates White Flint Park community. Our small town and neighboring Garrett Park Estates White Flint Park communities act as one. Garrett Park is a special place. We still gather at the post office to pick up our mail and catch up on local news in the Garrett Bugle. We celebrate together from 4th of July parades to our Halloween Spooky Woods Walk, all organized by community volunteers and enjoyed by neighbors near and far. With so many things that bring us together, it would be heartbreaking to see our students broken apart into different high schools. Families rely on each other for carpools, childcare, and the countless small acts of support that make Garrett Park feel like an extended family. We pride ourselves in our communal parenting approach. We know that everyone is looking out for each other. Separating our close Garrett Park community students from one another will dilute the strong connections we share. As a Garrett Park elementary teacher, I see firsthand how these peer connections matter. When students feel rooted and supported, they thrive. When our children lift each other up, they grow together. They deserve to stay together. We respectfully ask the board to select option B or modify option A so that the town of Garrett Park, south of Strathmore Avenue, remains united with the rest of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Jescourt.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Brandt, yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify in front of the board and in front of Dr. Taylor. My name is Stephen Jascourt, and I am the parent of a child who will be in the second fully phased-in year in the proposed Region 2 in the proposed 6-region academic programs model. I would like to focus your attention on the criteria-based programs because, as you have heard from others, it takes many years of building a program and teacher development and strong student cohorts for the program to become special. Many years ago, I attended the Eleanor Roosevelt Science and Technology Center in Greenbelt in neighboring Prince George's County. It's a test-in program similar to the math, science, and computer science magnets at Blair and Poolesville. At the time, it was the only such program in that county, and it attracted the most talented, motivated, and dedicated students and their parents from across the entire county and teachers from all across the region and beyond, willing to suffer long commutes just to teach at Eleanor Roosevelt. As a result, it had a culture of excellence across the board in math and science and also in many other areas. For example, the orchestra finished second among 54 in an international competition they were invited to participate in Vienna, Austria. How are we here going to have the concentration of top talent and top motivation if we dilute the program into 6 regions? How will Blair's program maintain its quality if the student and teacher pipelines are spread thin? Region 4 sends more than 4 times as many students to the program at Blair as Regions 3 and Region 5 send to these programs at Blair and Poolesville, which are outside of all 3 of those regions. How will the regions, as proposed, be able to have equitable criteria-based programs for math, science, and computer science? Are there other criteria-based programs that should also be viewed in this light? I hope Dr. Taylor and the board will take the time to carefully and thoughtfully consider these questions, gather community input, seriously study this matter, and revise the proposal accordingly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You may return to the seats as I call the next set of public commenters. I want to make sure, since today's testimony actually so far all on the boundary and program analysis, that staff will forward these comments to the design teams and so that they can have it to inform the community's feedback. All right.
We'll do that.
Next is Maida Schoolridge and Amy Mix, Jennifer Wong, Chris Keller, Diana Conway. Ms. Goodrich, you may proceed.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak. First, I just want to really quickly say wow to the middle and high school students who testified today. Definitely, we have some future civic leaders out there right now. My name is Midas Goodrich. I am the parent of a first grader at Travilla Elementary. I'm also the PTA president. I'm here today to speak to you on behalf of our community. And we want to say thank you for engaging families throughout this boundary study process. We appreciate that you've listened and worked to incorporate the feedback from our community so far. As we continue to review the new proposals, I am here to speak to Travilla community's feedback so far. On these new options, the majority of our community supports option A. It provides the best overall balance, has the strongest utilization rates, and results in the fewest split articulations, both within Region 4 and across the broader study area. Just as importantly, it maintains the diversity and inclusiveness that makes Travilla such a welcoming and connected place. Option A also keeps Travilla within the Wooten cluster, where our children and families are academically and socially rooted. Travilla has been part of the Wooten cluster since its opening, and that continuity is deeply valued by our families, many of whom represent multiple generations of attending the Wooten area schools. While we know the process may continue to evolve, we ask that this principle, keeping communities intact and maintaining consistent articulation to Wooten, remain a guiding priority in any future iterations. We do, however, seek clarification regarding the new idea of using Crown as a holding school. I'm not sure if this is the right time for questions, but if you could speak to how does this relate to the current boundary study?
We do not answer
questions.
questions.
Do not. I can submit them
This is not
later.
a conversation.
Okay. Just wondering, what would the current process pause and restart later, or would this work be done in parallel and this work continue forward? As always, the Travilla community remains committed to engaging constructively in this process. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration.
Thank you. Amy Mix.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Mix. I'm the president of the PTSA at Northwood. I also have a senior at Northwood and an 8th grader at Sims who will be a Northwood Gladiator next year. I realize you probably haven't heard a lot of Northwood voices recently because a lot of our community is actually excited about a change. And until very recently, we thought we were excited about some very cool academic programs that were coming to our school. But within the last week and a half, we've seen several new proposals that actually move those academic programs out of Northwood, leaving us just with performing arts programs. However, that's a big shout out to our wonderful performing arts program, so we do appreciate that. These frequent about faces and lack of getting meaningful input from our community is not garnering faith from our community. This really isn't the way to manage a sea change. When we asked the Northwood community to give us some feedback, we got more than 80 responses over about 48 hours. And so they said it better than I can, so I'm going to read to you some of their responses. The full text of it is in my written testimony. First, we had to move to a holding school for 3 years without athletic fields or an auditorium and a long bus ride. Then MCPS announced the plans to close Sims. Now, academic programs are being taken away from Northwood. Moving the humanities magnet to Northwood seems to be obvious to me. It would be a new school and it's centrally located. The fact that the proposal from MCPS put all 6 humanities magnets in the schools with the lowest farm rates is definitely noticed in our community. Much of the student body at Northwood consists of first-generation college-bound students interested in pursuing majors in science and medical fields. I urge MCPS to honor its commitment to equitable practices. It's exceedingly tone-deaf and disingenuous for MCPS to justify the regional program by speaking of equity and yet to favor the wealthier schools as they have patently done in this program distributions. Under the most recent proposal, Northwood will still end up with less, even though it has a larger brand new building. As usual, MCPS is pandering to the richest and loudest voices and leaving the most vulnerable families behind. And last, from one of our Northwood staff members, the removal of the medical science program to leave only a dance criteria program is so steeped in implicit and explicit racism and bias that MCPS should be ashamed. The takeaway for our predominantly Black and brown students is that they can't aspire to be doctors and medical researchers, but it's okay for them to be performers. I would direct you to look at the rest of the comments in the written submission. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Wong.
Good afternoon, board members.
Ms. Mix, can you turn off? Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, board members and Superintendent Dr. Taylor. My name is Jennifer Wong, and I'm a parent of 2 MCPS students and a resident of the Garrett Park Estates White Flint Park neighborhood, here on behalf of our Citizens Association. First, thank you for ensuring that every Walter Johnson Cluster student will have a seat at either Woodward or Walter Johnson High School. Our neighborhood, Garrett Park Estates White Flint Park, sits west of Rockville Pike, north of Strathmore Avenue, and borders the town of Garrett Park. Together, we form one cohesive community with the town of Garrett Park. Yet in 3 of the 4 options proposed, our neighborhood is split from the rest of Garrett Park. Dividing our children across different high schools would weaken community ties and create unnecessary barriers to supporting their educational success. As a licensed clinical social worker, I see how isolation and disconnection affect students. They are growing up as digital natives in an era of faux connection through screens, while rates of anxiety and depression continue to rise. In contrast, real in-person community is a protective factor, and research bears this out. You can see the attached list of studies in my written testimony. Garrett Park Town and Garrett Park Estates have built that kind of community together. Our children grow up surrounded by the same friends, from nursery school to swim team to community cookouts. When someone is struggling, we show up with food, help, and presence. This connectedness in real life keeps kids grounded and healthy. Please strengthen this kind of community building across the county, not dismantle ours. We must not overlook the power of belonging, the real human connections that make children feel seen, supported, and safe. On behalf of our Citizens Association, I urge you to please support option B, the only proposal that preserves the fabric of the entire Garrett Park community, or modify A to bring us all together. Our children's well-being depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Keller, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Keller. I'm the mayor of the town of Garrett Park. I'm testifying today, with the approval of our town council on behalf of our incorporated municipality. We commend the board for its inclusive approach that you have taken throughout the Woodward boundary study. And we are deeply grateful that this iteration of the study honors earlier commitments to align the Walter Johnson cluster feeder schools to either Walter Johnson or Woodward. The priority of our neighborhood is to maintain the town of Garrett Park as an undivided community consistent with its long-established municipal borders. We also urge, however, that the school boundary preserve the town's natural unity with adjacent neighbors in Garrett Park Estates and White Flint Park, as you've heard. Accordingly, we are here to express our strong support for option B. B is in Blackboard, which keeps the town of Garrett Park intact and joined with its immediate neighbors. We also recognize that option A can foster the same unity and cohesion, but only if the board makes a small but critical adjustment to the boundary study border along Strathmore Avenue. As you've heard, the town is a small, historic, and independent municipality, and that our bond with our neighbors is woven tightly into daily life. We share parks, churches, sports teams and so on. Preserving this unity honors the practical reality of how our residents live. We therefore support option B because it includes all of municipal Garrett Park along with its Garrett Park estates and White Flint neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Diana Conway.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Yang and members of the board and Dr. Taylor.
Turn on your microphone.
Mr. Keller, can you turn off yours?
Good afternoon, President Yang and members of the board and Dr. Taylor. I'm Diana Conway, president of Safe Healthy Playing Fields Incorporated. SHPFI is an all-volunteer 501c3 working to equip community leaders and their municipal, state, and federal officials on why grass sports fields are superior to plastic fields, and that's what they are, plastic. I submitted extended written remarks plus a packet of photos. I have 15 copies if they didn't come to you. Here's the ask. Enact the long-discussed pilot program of high-quality, well-maintained grass fields. You have Woodward, Crown, and Northwood coming online. A pilot will give grass fields what plastic gets automatically. Expert prep, installation, and maintenance. It rolls maintenance into the CIP contract just like plastic gets into the CIP. Today, grass has to beg for operating funds each year. There are 5 reasons plastic fields are losers. First, too hot. 40 to 70 degrees hotter than grass on warm, sunny days, then add climate change. You don't want a Jordan McNair event. Second, too toxic, especially for kids. Heavy metals, endocrine disruptors, PFAS, microplastics, all ingested or inhaled. Plastic is way more expensive when you include replacements and disposal. Are multi-million-dollar plastic fields your priority? Your budget says yes. Plastics create more injuries. My written remarks show how studies to the contrary are flawed in both methodology and by their funding sources. Finally, fifth, trash. There is no disposal solution to 400 tons of mixed toxic plastic waste per field per 8 to 10 years. We paid extra for that recycling, by the way. Richard Montgomery and Walter Johnson are cautionary tales. Where are the breach of contract suits for those two? And plastic fields make a mockery of MCPS sustainability. Plus now, since 2024, state law requires you include disposal costs. So Crown, Woodward, Northwood. We ask you to engage in a good faith effort on the long-promised grass pilots. We get bids for quality grass plus maintenance, like plastic gets. And commit to our kids with a bonus to your budgets. Thank you.
Thank you. Please return to your seats. Thank you so much. I'm calling Jordan Kahn and Nora Welsh.
Did you all get my documents?
You can give it to the staff and they will pass it to me.
I'm Jordan. May I begin?
Yes, please go ahead.
I'm Jordan Kahn for Gaithersburg families, imploring you to slow down for Crown. Please do not vote to consider it a holding school just 2 weeks after the idea was floated. The data released earlier today has not been reviewed, and we're skeptical. Crown High School has been in the works for decades. My family moved here in 2014, like many of us, to send our kids to this high school. We're multicultural, like so many in Gaithersburg, the most diverse city in the country. But we know that Gaithersburg suffers from inadequate academic resources. Our daughters attend Rosemont and Forest Oak. For more than a decade, we gladly paid taxes for this school. We watched in awe and marveled at the opportunities it would provide this historically disadvantaged community. And we were shocked to learn 2 weeks ago that Crown High School could be used as a holding school. It's not only a terrible idea, but extremely unfair, and we think unlawful. This sudden pivot is anathema to transparency. Crown residents were not consulted. Before voting, you must consider funding restrictions from the state of Maryland and the city of Gaithersburg, which donated the land. The obvious intent of Crown High School is to benefit the community, and we need it. Gaithersburg's high schools are overcrowded with deficient infrastructure. The land conveyance agreement calls for a permanent neighborhood high school, as do the Crown farm sector and county master plans. These binding legal documents cannot change on a whim without due process. Do not vote without understanding that holding schools corrode community and cause mass disruption. Traffic alone would be calamitous. Needs environmental analysis. Holding schools are not well cared for. Are we going to trash a $180 million investment? School renovations can happen on site. It's maybe less than ideal, but far worse to use Crown as a holding school, which again causes Gaithersburg to suffer. We're negatively impacted, but we haven't had a voice. We're the ones being silenced and ignored. Don't let this be another tragic instance where a historically disadvantaged community that's already hurting continues having to sacrifice and take a back seat to its better off neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Nora Welsh, go ahead.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Nora Walsh, a longstanding Montgomery County resident, two-term PTA president, and county PTA representative who has worked directly on the capital improvement program. I'm very familiar with what it takes to meet the criteria for school renovations and new construction. CIP is driven by data, not politics. It follows the same standards, criteria, and eligibility for every school to preserve MCPS's credibility and public trust. But today, that consistency is being undermined. Until today, every community in Montgomery County has been expected to follow the rules of the capital improvement program and accept the results of boundary studies, even when they're difficult. Historically, no cluster has ever liked the outcome of the boundary study, but we honor the process because it's based on consistency, transparency, and data. Yet now the standard is being rewritten because one cluster doesn't like the results. Instead of respecting the process, we're seeing a proposal to modify it midstream and convert Crown into a temporary holding school. This is unprecedented, unlawful, and unfair. Damascus isn't even scheduled for construction until 2031, and Crown is the only fully funded high school project in the CIP, set to open for the Gaithersburg community August of 2027. And the superintendent's own CIP documents state this over 40 times. By voting yes on his proposed revision, the board would set a precedence, a dangerous precedence, allowing after-the-fact community engagement, manipulating the process, and rewarding political influence over objective planning, including Wooten and Magruder as justifications is disingenuous. Neither school is in the CIP for renovation. They're now added that if they're now added, they'd be jumping the line ahead of all the other schools that followed the rules and waited their turn. The county council fully funded Crown High School with a legally binding land conveyance agreement requiring a permanent neighborhood high school for Gaithersburg.
Thank you.
Altering the land agreement. It's the only time Crown has been able to talk. Altering the land agreement violates the master plan, CIP, and the APFO. The claim of declining.
Thank you. We have your written testimony. Thank you. We appreciate everyone for coming in, and I'm going to, we have a video to play. MCPS TV, would you please play the video testimony?
Greetings, members of the Board of Education. It has been brought to my attention that there is competition for the possession of a criteria-based performing arts magnet program between Northwood High School and Albert Einstein High School. I and many others within and outside the Northwood community believe that this proposal is both illogical, irresponsible, and unfair, given that Northwood's performing arts coordinators were never notified of this change. When making a decision, I feel that it is necessary to directly notify both parties involved, which did not happen. Northwood students have advocated for progress for the Performing Arts Magnet program, and many students have already been looking forward to it. I have looked through a few comments by whom I assume to be from Einstein parents, arguing that they require the program because it will affect enrollment. Einstein will forever be a renowned school, and simply not having the magnet title will not change that. Einstein will forever be an incredible school. While systemic change is certainly necessary, this plan is ill-conceived. There has been a significant lack of study of individual school programs, and the unintentional consequences of this restructuring will create severe and devastating change, not just for Northwood, but for every single high school in MCPS. So please, members of the Board of Education, consider the repercussions of taking the Performing Arts Magnet program from Northwood High School. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I would like to open up for my board member comment. We need to do one comment, one question for the first round. I'm looking to my left. Ms. Zimmerman.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for coming out today. I also really identify with the Leslie Knope quote that Mr. Stein shared earlier. In fact, I say it often when I talk about this job. So I really appreciate all the care in the community. Your passion is evident. And as someone that deeply loves public school, what I see here is a lot of people who also really love public school. And I think that's a wonderful thing about our county and our community. I also want to speak to the fields and that we're planning to further discuss that at our CIP hearing, that some of the questions and things raised will be answered then.
Oh, you mean the CIP work session?
Work session, I'm sorry.
Tuesday.
Thank
yes.
you. So many words. Thanks.
Ms. Silvestri.
Yeah, I wanted to just ask the staff to send over to the board just the latest program options at all schools, including Northwood. I'm looking at the website, and there's multiple dates, so I just want to make sure I have the latest information and to see how Northwood is impacted. Thank you.
I'm looking to my right, Ms. Montoya.
Thank you. I want to appreciate those of you who brought up the lack of transparency, the lack of community engagement, the silencing. I hear you. I'm trying to make it better. I appreciate you raising the issues, and I'm happy to chat with anyone. You can email me, and we'll set up some time.
Thank you. Ms. Stewart.
I also resonated with David Stein's comments about being radically transparent. I also have a little mantra going through my mind this year, and that is radical engagement. So I will continue to try to do better on that aspect as well. I also wanted to make sure that we have that fulsome conversation on turf versus plastic and the different pluses and minuses on both sides of that, because I don't think I haven't heard that conversation be held at the board table, so looking forward to that. And I want to thank everyone that came out today. We hear your passion. I also say, much like Leslie Knope, that I actually signed up to be yelled at. But what's important is the message, and that we listen. So thank you so much for coming out, and we look forward to the continued conversation. Thank you.
Ms. Maloon.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out today, especially the students as well. I loved seeing the video. It was very nice to see how many people that came together over an issue, and I hope you know that we are truly listening, and it takes a lot to come out at such a young age. And finally, I want to align myself with Ms. Zimmerman and Ms. Stewart's comments about the concerns about the turf fields and just wanting to have a conversation about it in general. Thank you.
Agree. I also want to thank everyone to come out. You have provided very important feedback on the boundary and the program designed. And I want to make sure our staff capture that the boundary study and the program analysis is in the second phase right now, and the board also look forward to many other engagement opportunity when it comes to the board in the spring. And right now, surveys, emails, public testimony are all channels, good channels to convey your thoughts on those important decisions we need to make. So the next business meeting of the Board of Education for public comment is Thursday, November 20th. Sign up for public comment will open on Thursday, November 13th at 6 p.m. In addition to online sign up for public comments, we allow for in-person same-day sign up. We have 2 that did it today, when space allows. Unallocated slots will be filled on a first-come, first-served basis on the day of the meeting. In order to sign up in person, please arrive at least 15 to 20 minutes before the start of the open session and sign the form. In-person sign-ups will close 15 minutes before the meeting begins. So thank you. We are going to go to our item number 8, which is consent item. And I would like to ask board members, are there any items that you wish to pull? Ms. Montoya.
Yes, I would like to pull item 8.9, cancellation and award of contract, Crown High School, parens new, close parens new, Phase 2 project.
Thank you. Any other items? Okay. Can I have the rest of the motion to move the rest of the items?
Motion to move.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second to move the rest of the item in block. All in favor, please raise your hand. That's unanimous. All right, what's your question about 8.9? Please go ahead.
Thank you. I noticed in reading this award, I recognize it seems like the primary basis was that there was just a vendor error, right, on calculations. And it seems like the team has looked into that to make sure and verified, whatever needed to be verified, which is great. But I wanted to draw attention to page 2, the second whereas, and I'm just going to read it for the benefit of the community who might be listening. Whereas the scope of the Crown High School, parens new, close parens, project includes an artificial turf stadium field, comma, which was planned for award in a later phase, comma, but will be added to the scope of work in the updated Phase 2 contract award, semicolon. And then it proceeds with the other whereases. So I just want to, one, make sure that I understand clearly so we can make sure the community understands clearly that this new contract, should it go forward, is theoretically also including what might be called for the old contract, an amendment to now include an artificial turf. First, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. My concern, I guess, is really, what Ms. Stewart spoke to, that this conversation hasn't been had in front of the board. I know even in the CIP, and we had some folks testify before about, can you make sure we get this field at our school? And I personally don't have a lot of information about turf fields versus natural grass fields. So I appreciate Ms. Conway. I'm not sure if she's still here, but she was here earlier, provided some information. I plan to look at the submitted documents as well. But what I do know is that people have a lot of feelings about it. And there's science and all kinds of things that this isn't just something where we have feelings about something, right? There's actual data and things that we can look at. And so it's challenging for me to consider this, which I also just want to be honest, it's really hidden in this second page here, right? There's a whole first page of whereases, things that we might expect, and then kind of hidden in there, there's this clause about this whole big turf field, and these turf fields also cost a lot of money. So I'm concerned that we're being asked in the name of reapproving a prior contract to kind of slip this turf field in here without any conversation to the community, especially in light of the fact that it is kind of a controversial issue in some ways. We've heard testimony about it today. This is not the first time I've heard Ms. Stewart bring it up as well. So I'm not necessarily sure that we're ready to have that conversation here today either. So if you have any comments before I make a proposal, I would love to hear them. From anyone, or Dr. Taylor, sorry.
I'll start, and then I'll pass it to Ms. Swiatoka. My understanding is that synthetic turf was originally scoped in the original project of the school, and so when the school construction was designed, it was designed with that in mind. So although I think this changes the order of operations a little bit, it doesn't change the nature of the project as it was designed.
Okay, and I think that actually might be sufficient, just so that I understand. So this was originally included in the scope of the full project. It was just in a different phase. Is that correct? Okay.
Were you going to say something?
Okay.
They were
Yeah,
going to say
so
something.
most of our high school projects are designed and then usually are bid out in phases because there are funding that comes in throughout the years. So yes, this was always included in the project, and it was just going to be included in phase 2 just because of the way the funding was going to be awarded. So it didn't change the scope. It was always in the scope.
Okay, so how do we have funding now then if it was supposed to be in a later phase? Or did I mishear maybe?
It was supposed to actually be a phase 3. We were going to come to you for one more. We were trying not to delay the auditorium, which is important. You know, we have to get you all the bid documents. The GMP for the auditorium originally came in July in order to get to the August board meeting. When we found the error and we needed to revise, we were able to get the bids for the field in time to combine, so we didn't have to do a phase 2 and phase 3 to come back to you, trying to consolidate into less contracts.
Okay, and then I guess, and I know we're going to get to this later, but I can't not consider this in the context of this proposal for Crown to be a holding school and not now a local school for the local community. And that gets into questions about spending and various things. And of course, we can revisit that shortly when that item on the agenda comes up. I believe that's in the 10 category. But I guess I'm just wondering, is it typical when we build schools just for holding that then we would do those things? I want to make sure that I really understand what's going on here, because it seems like we're proceeding with it in one way, but then there's a proposal to do something else. And I mean, none of this stuff is even really happening for about 5 or 6 years anyway.
I mean, building this out is really thinking about it for the long-term investment and the comprehensive look at it. The auditorium needs to be a key part, right, of any comprehensive high school. And I know there's another conversation happening, and it's certainly getting confusing, but these components really are intended to be part of that comprehensive high school. From an equity standpoint, we have been trying to include all of these in every high school.
Right, but here, if the proposal is for the Crown to be a potential holding school until, 2038, 2040, I mean, someone please educate me, but I imagine, does the turf field even last that long? Are we going to have to replace it before then or shortly thereafter? I just want to understand how this works.
On average, they last about 10 years. It ultimately depends on the amount of usage that you get. Something that is used quite a bit might only last about 8 years. Something that is not used as frequently can last 12 years.
Okay, so potentially maybe even twice we might need to replace this before the local community has access to that high school if the Crown proposal as a holding school goes through.
I think it very much depends on how long we use it for our holding school.
Based on the current proposal. I mean.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Stewart?
Sure. So this actually, I need some clarification on the change order with the amount of money we're approving. So it was the 15 million, and now it's 18 million, but now you're saying it now includes artificial turf, and I see in other documents that's now costing 2.75 million. So how much of that is because of the electric cost, and how much of that is because of this artificial turf?
Yeah, so the turf here, the numbers in the CIP depend on if we're doing track and other site work with it. So when you see closer to a $2 million, it's because we are adding drainage, we are adding track.
2.75.
Correct.
Okay.
And so that's a significant difference than just the actual turf replacement, which is closer to that like 1.2 million, which is what everything else is included. We just need the additional artificial turf layer. So it's around $1 million. For this. The air in the administration was the electrical subcontractor air. We negotiated with the contractor, and they are absorbing some of the costs in their fees as a general contractor, since it was their administrative air. And so it was around $3 million for the electrical air.
So $1 million for the turf and 3 million for the, I don't think that still adds up.
It
from
does not,
15.
because the general contractor, again, is taking quite a bit of hit on their fee.
Okay, that helps clarify some of that because it wasn't very clear. And you heard about the community. I've heard for years about wanting at least a model state-of-the-art grass field to see what we could do with that, because we've actually haven't ever done a new state-of-the-art grass field. And I would like to have that discussion, and with Crown now possibly being a holding school, I would just at least have us consider it and just look at the price of that. But again, I'm not saying that should happen right there. I'm just saying we could have that as part of the discussion. And now I have more information about the price, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
One more question from me, just to clarify. We're not changing anything that we voted on before. This is, okay. All right. So with that, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Can you please raise your hand? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Right? Turning now, yes.
Just for the record, we just want to make sure we have a confirmed record of all those present and what their vote was, if their vote was against or abstain.
Okay, so the 5 was Ms. Malone, Ms. Zimmerman, Ms. Silvestri, Ms. Yang, and Ms. Wolf. Opposed? Please raise your hand. No opposed? Abstain? Please raise your hand. It's 2. Ms. Stewart and Ms. Montoya. And Ms. Rivera-Ovens. Thank you. All right, so we're going to item 9.1. Approval of fiscal year 2026 program evaluation.
Before we get to that, Ms. Yang, I do have a brief announcement about some really positive things that the board approved in their consent agenda. Earlier today, before the board convened its meeting, we had the opportunity to celebrate some of the special activities going on in the school system. We celebrated our Building Service Worker Day, we celebrated Principal Appreciation Month and Safe Schools Week, and we had a number of guests that we were able to recognize who are part of that celebration, and we thank them for being a part of that. Please check it out on social media to recognize our partners in our community who really help make MCPS a great place. The board also recognized and voted to approve several resolutions recognizing some pretty important celebrations in our school year. They voted to recognize in the consent agenda National Career Development Month in November of 2025, National Family Engagement Month in November of 2025, and certainly one of the ways we can honor National Family Engagement Month is to hear the voices of our community, and that is certainly present today. The board voted to recognize Native American Heritage Month in the month of November and Native American Heritage Day, specifically on November 28th of this upcoming month. We also, the board voted to approve Maryland Emancipation Day on November 1st, which is this upcoming Saturday. National School Psychology Week and Mental Health Awareness Week, which is coming up next week. National STEM and STEAM Day on November 8th, Veterans Day on November 11th, American Education Week, November 17th through the 21st, Education Support Professionals Day, the folks that work behind the scenes to make school happen in MCPS on November 19th, and Substitute Educators Day on November 21st. There are a ton of folks that we certainly love to celebrate and recognize. But I'm also saddened to report that there is some sad news that the board also voted to approve. On a sadder note, the board also approved 2 resolutions recognizing employees who have recently passed away. We honor Mrs. Perry Barami, a paraeducator at Cashel Elementary School, who served Montgomery County Public Schools for more than 3 years and was known for her dedication to care of students, staff, and families. We also remember Georgios Sideris, a painter in the Division of Maintenance for more than 3 years of service, who was known as a valued and committed team member and always somebody who was willing to chip in. And so thank you for taking a moment to recognize those 2 employees and the service that they gave, and to help us celebrate all of the upcoming excitement in the month of November. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. The next item is 9.1, approval of fiscal year 2026 program evaluation. Welcome, Dr. Edison. This is the 3rd time you're here to share with us the program evaluation. We took a look at it on the September 4th and October 16th work session. The board discussed the development of this year plan is one of the important things that we do, accountability and oversight. We want to know how well the things are working, programs are working, so that we can be responsible steward of the public money and trust in our school system. So why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Madam President. There is a resolution attached to board docs as well as the plan itself for those in the community that are interested. What the board is going to be reviewing this year under the leadership of Dr. Addison. And the resolve says that the Montgomery County Board of Education hereby approves the program evaluation work plan for the 2025-2026 school year.
Thank you. Are there any comments from colleagues? Ms. Montoya.
I'm having a hard time because when I take a look at the various, let's just say layers that were taken in this process to get to today, and what I'm looking at for the benefit of the public is on October 16th, there was a slideshow presentation on this topic. And in that slideshow, it also references the prior September 2025 review as well. So I'm looking at slides 4, which is the September 2025 review, and I'm looking at slide 6 from that October 16th presentation, which was the kind of second layer or second round. And then I'm also looking at the the final evaluation proposal. And now when I take a look at these, the idea was that there would be some proposed items, the board might have questions, perhaps the community might weigh in, right? It gives folks a chance to weigh in, we would come back, propose some things, kind of a back and forth, right? A conversation, if you will. But when I look at each of these, September 4th, October 16th, and then today on October 30th, it's effectively the same list as the initial list that was proposed on September 4th. And then at the bottom of that, it says that they were requested in fiscal year 25, right? So when you look at that, all of those items that are starred, that they were requested in fiscal year 2025, with the exception of high school science curriculum, from the very first one in September, made it to the final round, if you will. And my frustration is that in an attempt to fully inform myself so that I can advocate properly on behalf of the community, I asked for additional information so that I can understand the universe of programs or items that could be considered to be proposed in this, so that I could make sure that I wasn't overlooking something that needed to be looked into or that the community had raised. I asked for that information from my own staff, and one of my staff members told me to look for it myself and did not get the information to me. I asked for it ultimately from MCPS. I think I might have even put that on the record on October 16th. And I still did not receive, as of today, as I stand here today and I have to raise my hand to vote, I still have not received that information. And I noticed this pattern of effectively what MCPS proposed on September 4th is what's here. Now, one of the things that folks advocate about quite frequently is that they feel the board sometimes just rubber stamps what MCPS puts up. And I'm a current parent, and so I completely understand how you feel. And I don't do that. And so I'm having a hard time understanding how I'm supposed to make a decision on behalf of the entire community when I don't have all of the information that I feel I need to make that decision, and I requested it.
I believe the staff has program evaluation is about everything within the school system. During our 2 presentations, we share some priorities, and we the school side propose these, and we have asked board members to provide feedback and suggestions. So are there any other comments?
Correct, but I couldn't provide the feedback and suggestions when I didn't get the requested information, and that's a problem.
Thank you. Ms. Silvestri.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Addison, for your work on this, and thank you for meeting with me to better understand all of the proposals for this year. I just wanted to share, Dr. Taylor, that I really value the program evaluation work of the system. It does give us information about what is return on investment, what is working in education based on our investment in tax dollars. What programs need to be looked at because they're not yielding the results that we need, and what programs need to be stopped. And so, Dr. Taylor, I look forward to having that conversation with you in terms of what we're doing with these program evaluations. Dr. Addison put out several last year. Some of them had yellow, which we use the traffic signal yellow for let's take a pause and examine if this is still effective. There's some that were red. And so I think as we develop our budget for the upcoming cycle, I think we need to look back at these program evaluations to help us make the decisions to ensure that we are continuing to do things that are being effective and making the hard decisions when we have data that certain things are not being effective. So thank you for your work, and I think it's up to the board and the superintendent to look at this seriously in our budget development process going forward.
Thank you, Ms. Silvestri. And to piggyback on that, our policy committee this year is looking at a policy on program evaluation. And one of the criteria that we have set forth is the return of investment. So I'm actually very excited to work on that policy in collaboration with staff, community member, and field experts, so that we can actually have a policy to help us to really guide us in this work of how to evaluate program, and to Ms. Silvestri's point, after we evaluate, then what? So I'm excited about that work. Is there, Ms. Stewart, go ahead.
So in the spirit of having a growth mindset, I think that the evaluation, when I saw the color-coded descriptions, I wasn't exactly clear, like, what's the next step forward, right? Like, when do we finally come to the decision to close out a program or start something new? And I think evaluating is always so important, especially as we embark on a lot of new programming. So I look forward to helping to engage, even though I'm not on the policy committee, but engage in that policy.
Your feedback is always welcome.
Thank you.
And value. Yeah.
Because we need to make this very clear so we understand that our dollars are going where it is most effective for our students and to move our system forward. So again, I'm looking forward to having a process that's even more clear in the future.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you for this year to put on the deadline when we can expect a report on your plan. So I appreciate that. All right, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor of the 2026 program evaluation plan, please raise your hand. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ms. Rivera-Oren is online. And opposed, please raise your hand. That's 1, Ms. Montoya. Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to our next item, which is revised boundary scope to determine the service area for New Crown High School and expansion of Damascus High School. Dr. Taylor.
Thank you, Madam President. Today, we invite the board to have a discussion and potentially take action on revisions to boundary study scopes for the reopening of the Charles W. Woodward High School and expansion of Northwood High School, as well as the opening of Crown High School and the expansion of Damascus High School. In my recommended FY27 capital budget and FY27 through 32 capital improvements program, I recommended building a new Sligo Creek Elementary School on a new site in the Silver Spring area and initiating the process to close Silver Spring International Middle School and as an operating school. As I shared, given the challenges of unforeseen building conditions, intractable structural issues, and construction around the area of the school, I cannot in good conscience recommend the level of investment in the building that would be necessary to facilitate continued use as it is currently in use right now as 2 permanent schools. At the October 16th, 2025 board work session, I also recommended using the new Crown High School as a temporary holding school for upcoming projects to include projects like Damascus High School, Magruder High School, as well as Wooten High School before establishing a permanent and comprehensive high school in that area, which is absolutely our intent. These recommendations obviously impact our current boundary studies. And I'm proposing amendments to the current boundary scopes based on these recommendations. And before our team jumps in and shares a brief presentation, I want to go back to something that was said earlier this evening about following the data and making difficult choices. There are no easy choices in boundary studies, not a one. And there are difficult choices that need to be made in a really resource-constricted environment. Coupled with that, when you have changes in the landscape with enrollment, it really calls upon us to be pragmatic and to think ahead and to consider more than just the next couple of years, but really to think about the next couple decades. This is a shift for us, and a pretty meaningful one at that. For us to start thinking a little bit bigger picture. And our community is going through some changes right now. It's not clear as to whether or not those changes will be temporary or whether or not those changes will be long-lived, but we have to position ourselves in a way that we can weather that storm no matter what. I appreciate everybody who has come tonight to add their voice to the conversation because it really is very valuable and everybody is very invested in hearing what you have to say because it does make a difference in terms of adding context to the bigger picture. But we would love to have more options on the table than the ones that we currently have and would love to explore a wider array so that we make sure that we make a good recommendation to the board and that the board have ample time to weigh that recommendation. So without further ado, I'll introduce Mr. Adnan Mamoon and Ms. Andrea Swayatoka, who give a brief presentation, and I'll read some resolves and offer the board an opportunity to ask questions and discuss amongst themselves.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Taylor. As Dr. Taylor already mentioned, we are here to request the board to give us an option to explore possible additional options for both the Woodward, reopening of Woodward High School as well as the expansion of Northwood boundary study. This recommendation would be to build additional options that take into account building Sligo Creek Elementary to a new site in the Silver Spring area, and to initiate the process of closing Silver Spring International Middle School as a future holding school in that area. And for the Crown and Damascus boundary study, we would like to work on some additional options that take into account Dr. Taylor's recommendation about using Crown High School as a temporary holding school for the modernization and renewal projects for Damascus, Magruder, and Wooten High School. And as Dr. Taylor already mentioned, the resolutions that is before the board, we're not asking for the board to authorize the closure of Silver Spring International Middle School at this point, nor authorize the use of Crown High School as a holding school. The request is to authorize development of additional boundary options that reflect these potential changes for the board's consideration in the future. And then, it would allow us enough time to provide the public notice when these options are developed so that we could go through the engagement process that is necessary for us to collect feedback, so we can provide that feedback to the board as well. So for the Crown High School, as well as the expansion of Damascus High School boundary study, we wanted to kind of give an overview of where we were planning-wise when the whole project started. So the planning for Crown High School started in the CIP for FY23, which was back in 2021, when we were looking at the enrollment data. At that point, as you can see from the chart, the projection was by 2027, when the Crown High School was going to open, we were projecting that we're going to have a total of 1,838 students overutilized in all the high schools that are in the Crown boundary study area. That was the reason for us to, at that point, propose the Crown High School, building the new Crown High School and doing this boundary study to fill those seats. Fast forward to today and our new reality. The 11 high schools currently in the boundary study area are projected to have 957 available seats by August of 2027, at the time Crown High School would open. This is a difference of a negative 2,795 students from when Crown High School was being planned. So from 2021 to 2027, we're now projecting we're going to be about 2,800 students less than what we were projecting back in 2021. We're also, in our CIP, proposing a major capital project for Damascus High School, which would add another 707 seats to the area, and the total capacity of Damascus at that time would be 2,250 by August of 2031. And then Crown High School, that is finishing up in 2027, will have a capacity of 2,219. If you combine those available seats, we're going to be having an excess capacity of close to 4,000 seats in these high schools. And that was the proposal that Dr. Taylor made, and this is why we're requesting for us to have the options to work with our boundary consultants to work on some additional options that show Crown being used as a holding school. So we did some preliminary analysis, and we worked with a third-party consultant to look at a few scenarios and see what utilizing Crown as a holding school could do fiscally for us. So in the scenarios, the first one that you see, and you will notice that in all the scenarios, the amount and the date for Damascus High School expansion remains the same, because that's what is proposed in our CIP. The other dates for Magruder and Wooten in these scenarios are based on the path we choose to modernize these schools. So the first column, you would notice, without a holding school, the Damascus would cost roughly estimated $306 million, and it would open in August of 2031. And Magruder High School would be a renewal project, and it is anticipated that we would open it in 2038. The anticipation here, building out the schedule is because it would be occupied and without any holding school, it would take longer to renew Magruder. And same thing goes for Wooten. The cost would be roughly $453 million in our estimate, and the timeline would be August of 2042 to open that school. In the second scenario, we anticipated, again, same timeline and the estimate for Damascus High School opening in August of 2031, and then Magruder replacing on-site but without a holding school. That would take that schedule out to 2037 and cost us $367 million. And Wooten would be replaced on-site while the students are in the current building. The anticipated schedule would be 2040, and it would cost about $383 million for a total of $1.57 billion. As you can see, the first scenario and the second scenario, there is a difference. However, if you look at the third option as using Crown as a holding school for both Magruder and Wooten, the anticipated timeline for both those schools come down significantly to August of 2033 for Magruder and August of 2035 for Wooten, and the cost would be significantly less due to the fact that we're doing it in a much faster pace, being able to utilize Crown as a holding school. The timeline for construction would be shorter, so we would pay less in anticipated escalation cost as well, and the timeline for construction would also save money. So that's the, basically, it provides a estimated savings of over $273 million, and it would significantly cut the construction timeline by 7 years for all those three schools. With that, I'm going to pass it on to Ms. Swatoka for the Woodward and Northwood boundary.
Yes, so the resolution and proposal on the table takes into consideration when we released the original Woodward boundary Northwood expansion. It was a week prior to the CIP being released. We needed to keep moving forward with the CIP and the options, and unfortunately the timing just did not allow for us to take into consideration the proposal that came a week later. So following that, as part of the CIP recommendation, the proposal was recommended to consider a closure at Silver Spring International Middle School that would take place at the end of school year 29 to 30. Those students would be reassigned, most likely to Eastern Middle School, that would receive a brand new replacement, expected to open in August of 2030, and a renovated and expanded Sligo Middle School with an expected completion of August 31. The existing facilities that both Silver Spring International Middle School and Sligo Creek currently occupy would then turn into a much-needed holding center in that area of the county in the Silver Spring area. So really just seeking the opportunity to revise and provide 2 or 3 additional opportunities for boundary study, understanding that potential closure on the table. If we go to the last slide, just wanted to share with you all an anticipated boundary timeline, taking these 2 resolutions into an account. We would start working with a consultant to develop these additional options here in the month of November and share that by the end of the month. We would then have additional community engagement sessions, just like we have been doing for these additional options in early December, with still of the target date of February 5th for the superintendent's recommendation for both boundary studies, allowing for public hearing and work sessions in February and March, with the opportunity for the board to take action March 26th. And with that, we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Before our discussion, Dr. Taylor, can you actually read the resolve for the resolutions?
There are several. Resolved that additional boundary options be developed for Crown Damascus study area, reflecting the option to use Crown High School as a temporary holding center, with the understanding that it would not be considered for use as a holding center unless aligned with state funding requirements. And be it further resolved that additional community engagement sessions be held for the new options prior to the superintendent's recommendation, and may it further be resolved that there be no other changes to the high schools and middle schools included in the existing scope, and may it further be resolved that the updated timeline for the boundary study process determine service areas for the new Crown High School and the expansion of Damascus High School shall be as follows. And they are listed on the slide that is projected. And may it further be resolved that this boundary study be conducted in accordance with the Board of Education Policy FAA, Educational Facilities Planning, and Montgomery County Public Schools Regulation FFA-RA, Educational Facilities Planning.
Thank you.
And that is one of two. So
Okay.
this is just the Crown
First.
Damascus one, and it is for your consideration.
Right, so that's the first one. I'm going to ask, so I think we need to ask for a motion before we can go into discussion. So is there?
This would be a motion for approval of the Damascus Crown resolution.
Yes, we need a motion first for discussion. Do I have a motion for discussion?
So moved for discussion purposes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Now can do discussion. Ms. Zimmerman.
Thank you. So we've heard some from the community on this proposal. We've heard about the conditions at Wooten High School, and it's clear that, you know, it is one of our many schools that does require renovation. We've also heard from community members and elected officials that if this is something that we choose to adopt, that if this resolution does go forward, that we would like to see an option that shows a hybrid school option that would have local students attending Crown High School, and it would simultaneously function as a holding school. So is that an option that can be shown if we were to move forward with this?
Yes, certainly.
Okay, so let's, I just want to make it clear that that is like our intention as we choose to move forward, that we will have at least one option reflecting this. Yes.
Ms. Silvestri.
Yeah, Dr. Taylor, just the process question. Why are these resolutions needed? Why can't you just develop options and let us explore them as possibilities?
Absolutely. So when the board conceived the process of having a boundary study to reflect the opening of 2 new schools, as well as the expansion of other schools that were planned, and in this case, the opening of Crown High School as a comprehensive school and the expansion of Damascus High School, you defined the scope of work in that boundary study. And so if we are going to make any modifications to the scope of work and consider options that are outside of that scope of work, we do need to document that somehow and articulate to the community and to you what our intentions are, and to put that out there transparently. And I think it's important too that if you're going to take this step and make this a serious consideration, that you make sure that it's conditional on appropriate funding, and that you make sure that it's in line with all other legal requirements, and that you build that into any changes that you have, and that you make your intentions clear about seeking community feedback and engagement as well.
Thank you. I'll have more questions, but I'll wait.
We'll come back. Ms. Wolf.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to just be clear that we're not making any decision about using Crown as a holding school. This is just to develop options in the event that we do decide this, so that we know what we are looking at, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Montoya.
Thank you. Radical transparency is the theme today. Thank you so much, Mr. Stein, and I appreciate you still being here. In a similar vein, for this very same item, I specifically asked on Monday afternoon, in order to be fully informed and to fully inform my community, can I please have some information and data to make sure that I can understand what we're doing here, and I was specifically told there would be no action in any way taken today as it related to Crown, that this was just a discussion, there would be no action, but we are asked to do an action here today. And I did not receive the information that I requested. So it's challenging for me to sit up here and make a decision on behalf of the community with my vote. Nonetheless, since it seems to be moving forward anyway today, I have a few concerns, but at first I have a question. So when we're looking at, I think you call it where we are today, our new reality, does the data in our new reality take into account population projections? I'm not saying enrollment. I'm not talking about live births. I'm talking about actual population projections in the actual areas, Gaithersburg, right? I'm not talking about what's happening in Churchill or in Rockville, in the actual area where the school is proposed to be built, where the school is being built. Does that data in that chart that's in the slideshow take into account population projections?
Yes, it does. Based on the developmental data that we have from the county, that's built into all of our student projections. These numbers do include
Okay, I'm not
future
asking about
development.
student projections. I'm talking about, like, the cities, right? They produce population data, right? City of Gaithersburg, they have their own municipal government. They produce population projections based on developments, based on, their own incoming and outcoming, various projects that they have in the pipes.
Yes, that's the same data that we use and gather from planning. And they look into all of that information that you're talking about before they share it back with us and for us to develop our student projections.
Okay, because when I looked at that data, it doesn't show steep declines in population in the city of Gaithersburg. So I feel very confused. I see my friends over here, they're shaking their heads. So I just feel confused as to when I look at that data, which I ultimately had to Google myself, and it doesn't seem to show that. So that's just something that is concerning to me when we're asking to sign up for this multi-year plan, which I'm not even sure will ultimately be binding, because in December of 2028, every single one of us elected officials could not be up here on this board. And these projects aren't slated to be complete irrespective of which option until at least 2031, right? So if there's an entirely new board here, whether it's in a year or 3 years, and they say, you know what, never mind, then are Magruder and Wooten even getting what they're hoping for anyway, or are we pulling the football away like I think it was Mr. Silva suggested the other day? So I feel confused about what's being said about enrollment and seats and all of those things when I can see the Gaithersburg population data. So I have some more questions,
Thank you.
but I'll let Ms. Stewart.
Ms. Stewart.
In that vein, as far as our how we get our numbers from planning, and there's different points during developments that we get the numbers. I think that we need to actually, I would love to hear from Gaithersburg Planning or the County Planning Department directly, and so we can have this discussion. So that is something I would like to dig in more, because it is something we hear a lot, not just in this area, but any area where we are having more development and it's more dense. We hear a lot about the numbers not really matching up, and so it would help for me to understand exactly where the numbers are coming from. And I know that we do generally have a meeting, but is that something you all could help me with?
Yeah, we can work to figure out and generate the right time for planning to come join. We work very closely with them, and I know that they publish their student generation number, and not as often what people look at, right, in its apartment. They do it very specific because we have an MOU with them. They receive information about our students, which we are obviously not allowed to share. That is sensitive student data. But they do it down to the cluster, and they look at student generation within each cluster based on single family attached, single family detached, multifamily low-rise, multifamily high-rise, and they create a very specific student generation number per cluster. So they are not doing a county-wide number for us, because they are geomapping each student and where they physically reside in the county.
it would be great to have that discussion and also see how well that worked out in past years.
Sure.
So we know, back map. Also,
Do you have a
one more
question?
question. One more question is.
We'll come back to you. You
Oh.
have your one question.
Sure.
We'll come back
Okay.
to you.
Sounds good.
Mrs. Zimmerman.
Thank you. If this resolution does go forward, it is in the resolve that there will be additional community engagement, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And then that community engagement would be used to inform what options we would choose to go forward with. So if,
That-
for example, the community is really against some of the options that we're going forward with, that those options wouldn't be considered any longer.
Yes, those feedback obviously will be shared with Dr. Taylor prior to him making a recommendation for the board.
Right, so it sounds like the point of this resolution is to expand options and have the community garner feedback on those options.
That is correct.
It is the second resolved, just to be clear.
Ms. Silvestri.
I think as a part of the option development process, I would like to understand the financials. How does the funding work out? Because this is what you would spend and how much you would save, but it all depends on how much we get from the county. And so in your option development process, I need scenarios. So fully funded, bad year, and, if we don't get fully funded, how long down the road would Magruder and Wooten get built? And what would that mean for a holding school if there is no project for it to cater to? So that's one big question mark for me is, what if we're not fully funded? Is it going to, what other purpose will it have? Because it has to have a purpose. I'd like to understand that better. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Taylor, my question is about the timeline. The timeline is changed. Can you tell us what's the thought process going into this timeline change?
Yes. Introducing a new option, and I don't think it's anyone's intention to throw a curveball into anything. It's really to be respective of feedback that we've received and to be pragmatic when we do receive that feedback and there's new data that points us in a different direction. And so the original timeline that we were looking at was to make a recommendation to the Board of Education at the end of January. I would really benefit from having 2 additional weeks of community engagement in December and January to formalize that recommendation, and would like to postpone my recommendation from the end of January to the beginning of February to allow for some additional opportunities for engagement. It's going to be pretty busy for a couple of reasons. This is not just boundary season, it's not just capital improvement season, it's also operating budget season. And we've definitely got some high torque programming options that are on the table. And knowing that we're going to be collecting feedback on a lot of different things at a lot of different touch points, it may be better for us to just get a couple extra weeks of that feedback before formalizing something and bringing it to the board in a more concrete fashion.
Thank you. Ms. Wolf?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. Looking at the timeline, just that you have here projecting when Magruder and Wooten would be completed, if it was done on site while the students were still on site. I'd like to understand a little bit more about how you came up with those dates. Is this work that's only being done in the summer? Is it work that's being done while they're in the buildings?
Yeah, so for the first option, which is a renewal for both Magruder and Wooten, meaning we're going to be renovating the building. Because there is no holding school, we had to assume that it's going to be done in parts, which extended the timeline. So it would have to be doing while the students are in the building. We would, have basically take over sections of the building, trying to renovate, then move them over to the completed section, then do the next part, which is essentially where that timeline stretched out.
So can I just understand now? So you're saying a renewal, so you're not talking about tearing down the building? So
That is the second option in the chart.
Okay.
So the second option assumes that it is going to be replaced on site. So Magruder students would sit in the current Magruder while we build over their field or other spaces within that site. So you will see that that timeline is slightly shorter.
Okay, my second question is for Dr. Taylor. There is a little unrest here on the board about this issue today. And I'm wondering, a lot of times we have a resolution lay on the table for 30 days. I'm wondering how that would affect your timeline if we postponed a decision until next month so that our fellow board members could have an opportunity to obtain the data that they're interested in.
Certainly. And you absolutely, I mean, we work for you. The challenge, of course, is that that does shorten the amount of engagement time that we would have, because it would be working at the board's direction to generate maps. We could spend the month of November generating the maps, or we could spend the month of November waiting for the board's direction. We will make it work however you want it to work, but it does condense our timeline in terms of engagement. That is a feature. It is also partly why I wanted to introduce this as an idea in the middle of October and allow for us to even figure out the feasibility before bringing this to you. And candidly, we don't have it all figured out in one regard in terms of getting straight commitments from the state in writing of what we can and can't do, which is why there's a conditional component in this resolution. But it's about timing. I think that being clear that the board wants to hear from the community on a specific thing, giving us the time to work with the third party that is generating our maps, that would be helpful. And so I see it from that perspective of wanting to have more of the time. But obviously, we serve at the board's pleasure.
So right now you're bound by the current scope. That's what you're saying. So you can't develop new options.
And I certainly wouldn't recommend that the board postpone its decision-making in March. That could have some negative downwind effects in terms of us scoping and sequencing next steps, everything from planning, transportation, programming, you name it. So, to the extent practical, holding that March deadline really is a good time frame for a decision making in terms of a final decision. But in terms of what you do to allow us the space and wiggle room to plan and to generate maps, I think the community would be very interested in what those maps would look like.
Thank you. Ms. Stewart.
There's one part, the piece of the puzzle we haven't talked about, and now everything's kind of linked together, and that is the programming. So we had certain programming that was going to be at Crown, and so I do think that the thoughts on that needs to be shared, even though that's not your side of the house. It needs to all be together. I do also believe that more data for the community to look at, the better. So even though I don't think we would be ready to make a vote today on either of these resolutions if it said, we're moving forward with this, right? But this is just about getting data out to the public. And I am, again, for radical engagement. So if I lean towards any of these, it's just really because I'm always want to get more information to the public. The earlier, the better. And I think people are really tired of surprises. So let's just get everything out on the table and have the full discussion.
Yeah. I'm looking at the table to see Mrs. Zimmerman.
The caveat in the first resolved, contingent upon the state funding requirements being met, can that be explained further?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go for it.
So the analysis that you're seeing, we have worked with the third party, and the enrollment data that we shared all that information with the state.
Yes.
So they're looking at the analysis as far as the cost saving as well as the new enrollment data that we have provided based on our projections. So they're going to let us know based on, once they have had a chance to look at our data, whether, the Crown building could be funded at the current level that the state is funding. So that's why that contingency that you're seeing is there, that, we have not gotten that confirmation from the state.
So what would be the result if we were not to get that confirmation?
So, I mean, based on what the state tells us, then we will have to come back to the board and let the board know what the state's outcome is, and then we can decide whether to move forward with, Crown being a holding school or not.
And so just a small clarification to add on to that. When the state approves funding for projects, it does so under a very, strict formula that has different assumptions in it. And so what we wanted to do was certainly we needed to share back with them, these would be the new assumptions. Until that has worked through sort of the process with the IEC and their project process, we need that to be resolved in order to know for sure that the same funding would apply to these assumptions. And that's very important for the balance of the CIP and how the project is funded between the state and local funding. So again, it's really about saying, okay, this was the first set of assumptions, here's the second set of assumptions, and if those align, then we can move forward. And that's just that confirmation that we're waiting for.
So do we know when we will get this confirmation?
So we are working with the state. We're hoping to definitely have that information prior to the next board meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Wolf?
I see this resolution as a positive only because I think it lays out what our plans are and gets you what you need in order to bring forth further consideration. And the sooner we can do that for the public, the better. Because we can see this is a very contentious issue. Boundaries always are, but the more information we have, the better. So I see this as not making a decision about anything today other than allowing you to come up with more options. Thank you.
Ms. Montoya?
Thank you. I actually was going to ask one question, but in light of some of the comments, I just want to share some things I've heard from the community. Some community members feel like this is just a bit of a charade, right? We're saying, well, we're not actually deciding anything because we still have to wait on these things, and that's true, right? That is what the scope of this resolution is, not saying Crown is going to become a holding school, absolutely. Based on the experiences of some community members, these types of things have typically just been, as someone called it, it's just a paper game, right? We're putting this up, we kind of already know what we're going to do. We're saying we're going to consider these things. I heard Ms. Zimmerman ask, well, if the community says they don't like certain options, will those options not be considered? And the answer wasn't correct, those options will not be considered. It was the community's concerns will be shared with Dr. Taylor so he can make a proposal. And those are two different things. So I want to make sure the community is clear on what that answer is. That it was not that if you share your concerns or don't like certain options, then those will be taken out. That was not the answer that was given. And it's important to understand that. I
also want to give everyone a chance.
I can appreciate that, but some folks have had more chances even than I had. So thank you, Ms. Yang. So the concern here, I hear that the resolution also contains a whereas or resolved for additional community engagement, which is wonderful. But Again, it's coming a little bit after the fact here. The timeline is still very rushed. When I've requested additional community engagement for the various big topics that we have, I'm repeatedly told the team is stretched, they're doing so many things, bandwidth, and that's all true. You guys are doing, I mean, it's the same group of people working on these very large projects, and I absolutely can appreciate that. I mean, I see how exhausted you all are because you're doing so much work. So then it just gets a little confusing to me as to how now we're going to suddenly have more community engagement. And what I don't see here, though, is meaningful community engagement, right? A presentation is not meaningful to the community. If we're not going to the spaces where the community that's being impacted live, it's not meaningful to the community. If we're not giving them notice, again, I didn't find out till last night around 9:30 p.m. that this was even coming up for action, and I am a Board of Education member who is supposed to decide this issue. How is the community supposed to respond in these ways? So I have significant concerns over the lack of transparency that is going on, whether we're only deciding whether to produce other options, because those other options are not without a cost. Right? We pay staff, your time, your energy. If you're working on that, you're not working on something else potentially, right? We've already done all of this time and effort into all of these different options and boundaries, and quite frankly, yanked the community back and forth on all of these things, only to at the last minute say, hey, wait a minute, let's put all that aside and let's look at something else. I'm also wondering if in this chart that's currently up, where it talks about potentially doing these things on site, which would actually move the timeline up, at least for Magruder and Wooten, have we discussed that with those schools? Perhaps Magruder and Wooten say, yeah, great, we just would like to have it faster, because we know we cannot bind this board. And we know that the county council could be a whole different council as well. So when we talk about community engagement, my question here is, with respect to this chart, have we talked to Magruder and Wooten to see whether they might entertain something like this? Have we considered whether when Woodward, excuse me, Ms. Yang, I have a duty as Ms. Rivera-Oven did to ask and express the concerns my community has.
You should.
Have we considered when Woodward is no,
chance.
and I have, and so have others, Ms. Yang, please. Have we also considered potentially with Woodward coming up as no longer being needed for what's currently utilized at, right? Have we considered other options is what I'm trying to get at here, right? We have Crown as a holding potentially. There's potentially Woodward that could potentially be used, right? If we're looking at spaces the goal here is to get our students into safe spaces as quickly as possible, which I think is the community's goal, right? Have we considered some of these other options other than just saying, well, look, folks, it's going to cost a lot less money if we just make it a holding school, so that's what we should go with.
Thank you. Ms. Stewart.
Okay, just touching. I think Mr. Mamoon wanted
Would
to
you
answer.
meant to answer? Ms.
Yeah, so, sorry, I didn't understand could you repeat the question about the Woodward?
Have we considered potentially, let's just take Wooten, for example. Have we considered potentially having Wooten move into Woodward when it's empty in, what is that, 2027, I believe, to then get their renovations and things done? Well, also potentially maybe, for example, using Crown initially for Damascus or something like that, but then so that it's not for such an extended period of time that we're letting other schools use this school before the local community can have an opportunity to be inside that school.
So the Woodward is part of a separate boundary study. As far as the Crown School is concerned, yes, the using it for Damascus is also on the table. We definitely considered using it for a holding school for Damascus.
Yes, no, I know, and I recognize that Woodward is part of a separate boundary study, but when we're trying to find solutions, I'm just trying to get a wider angle view here so that we can figure out some better solutions, because again, we can't even bind future boards to any of these anyway.
If we need those future solutions, we need to change the scope. Otherwise, no options can be discussed or put on the table for the community. Ms. Stewart.
I just wanted to reiterate about future boards and binding them to some of this, because some of the dates go very far out. And I am just cautioning us to making any promises that we can't keep for future boards. So, for instance, Wooten, some of these completion dates are way in the future. I don't I just want to make it clear that when we do a CIP, we look at it every 2 years. If there was somehow a huge jump in kids being born and new development, that we would review population trends every 2 years, and at some point, the plan could change. So I just want to make that very clear to the community, because I think folks see their school in the CIP and it's like 4 years down in the CIP, and then in 2 years, all of a sudden that changed, and then 2 years later it changes. So very clear, and this, we have a 6-year CIP, but can that be changed in the every 2-year cycle?
So yes, I'm just, so a couple of things. One, I appreciate the point, I think that, of what you're sharing, Mrs. Stewart, which is that this slide that we're looking at is an analysis of the relative cost and timeline of doing these projects with and without a holding school. So this is not, it would absolutely need to be evaluated in the context of a future CIP. So this is an analysis that shows what's possible and what the potential time and money scope would be with and without a holding school. But each year, as you're saying, we have amendments to the CIP. Every 2 years, we revisit the CIP as a whole, and that is the context in which those future project decisions, specific project decisions, would be made.
Thank you. I want to be just as clear as possible on that. So thank you, and that's all I think I have.
Thank you. We have had a lot of discussion. I understand that there might be even, how emotional this topic is. And this is the second time we look at the scope. And then it's very uncertain, and it triggers a lot of emotions from our community. And people might even feel fatigue because there are a lot of issues at the table, because they impact real neighborhood, real people's life, and the students' experience in our schools. But for us to have the best usage of the investment and to meet the comprehensive need of the whole MCPS community, the process is that in order to explore all options, that we need to look at the original approved scope. So that is why the resolution is at the table. So with that discussion, do we have a motion? Oh, we did have a motion to approve.
So the motion that we have on record was by Ms. Silvestre, seconded by Ms. Wolf. We just want to confirm that that is what that motion is for. That motion is for approval of the resolution.
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct.
There's a motion to approve. There is a second. Both? So,
Sorry, are we voting on both
just
at the
one,
same time, or just the first one?
Just the first one.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm...
Just the Crown and Damascus resolution.
Correct.
So there is a motion on the table and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Against, please raise your hand. 1. Abstain, please raise your hand. 1. Thank you. And we have another resolution.
We do. The second proposed resolution is a recommendation to the Board of Education to approve the revised boundary study scope to determine the service area for reopening of Charles W. Woodward High School and expansion of Northwood High School. The resolved that the scope of the Charles W. Woodward High School boundary study process shall include additional options that address the possible realignment of articulation patterns for students from Silver Spring International Middle School to nearby middle schools, primarily a rebuilt and expanded Eastern Middle School and an expanded Sligo Middle School, along with their corresponding high school assignments, and may it further be resolved that additional community engagement sessions be held for these new options prior to the superintendent's recommendation, and may it further be resolved that the high schools and middle schools identified in the board-adopted boundary study scope resolution number 144-23 remain unchanged, except as noted for the articulation adjustments. And may it further be resolved that as stated in the board-adopted boundary scope, again, Resolution 144-23, no elementary schools are to be included in the boundary study at this time. And may it further be resolved that the updated timeline for additional options related to Charles W. Woodward High School and Northwood High School boundary study shall be as followed, and they are the ones listed on the screen behind me and for the public. And may it further be resolved that the boundary study shall be conducted in accordance with the Board of Education Policy FAA, Educational Facilities Planning, and the Montgomery County Public Schools Regulation FAA-RA, Educational Facilities Planning.
Thank you. For discussion, I need a motion on the table. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion to
approve. Sorry.
to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
There's a second. There's a motion to approve and a second. Any comments and discussion from the board? I will start from my right-hand side. Ms. Matoya.
I just want to note, I think it might have been just this most recent meeting that I believe Ms. Stewart asked for the costs of rebuilding both Sligo Creek and Sims. So I just wanted to make sure that that was noted here in this meeting as well. I know we just requested it, so I don't expect that you have that information. Thank you.
Ms. Stewart.
Yes, I was going to remind us that we needed to have that for the community. And yeah, that was it.
I have a clarification. We are not saying in this resolution that we're closing Sims or we're closing.
That's correct.
That is to explore options.
All that this resolution would be doing would be asking the staff to expand the scope of the boundary study to include that as a option or options.
Thank you. Ms. Silvestri.
Yeah, I wanted to just state that since this has been proposed by the superintendent, I've gotten a lot of questions, as I'm sure everybody has. And I don't have the answers to those questions because it hasn't been developed. And that's what this resolution does, is like, okay, so if we did this, then what would happen to this program, or what would happen to this school, and how would the middle schools be impacted? So we can't really move forward with exploring this fully until all those options are developed, and this is what that resolution allows us to do.
Ms. Stewart.
I remember the really other important thing I wanted to say is programming. This is really important to deal with the programs. So there are very distinct programs at both the elementary school and the middle school, and so we just need to have that clear along with the actual boundary decisions. And again, reiterating, this is just information, so the public can have that, and so we can have an informed decision going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. About your timeline, I didn't finish my asking. You have some very specific dates on it, and we know how sometimes things can happen, and these can be revised, or how does it work?
Well, changing the scope of the boundary study does put these dates as written into the scope of your boundary study.
So that's going to be binding.
Yes.
To meet the deadlines. So staff, these are binding deadlines, and then I do see that you continue to build the months in between for feedbacks. Okay, see no other lights. We have a motion on the table to approve and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's unanimous with those present. Thank you. That is item 10.1. Item 10.2 is done. That's 10.2. Item 11 is informational item. Several informational items are included in board's packet. No action is required of the board for these items at this time. Now, before I move to item 12, I want to thank everyone. It has been a meeting with a lot of important decisions for the school system, and that for us to be open to community feedbacks, continue to do meaningful community engagement, and these are the things that board will look for in the future.
Madam President, can I draw the public's attention to one critical item in the information items? It's a new item.
Okay.
I'd like to draw the attention of the community to item 11.5, which is student attendance and suspension data. This is a brand new item and something that the board adopted in your strategic plan, MCPS Future Ready. Part of this is being radically transparent and sharing our by-school attendance data and our by-school discipline data by discipline code, including suspensions. This is the first time that we've done this publicly, and we are doing this with the effort of finding ways to make improvements and in response to changes that we've made to both our academic approach and regulations as well as our student code of conduct. And so as this continues to evolve, we invite the community to join us on this journey and to watch how these numbers change and improve over time.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. And item 12 is adjournment. May I have a motion?
Move to affirm.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand. That's unanimous with those present. Thank you.